My name is Jim Manning from MoviePropCollectors.com, and for the people who aren't familiar with World of Color, can each of you give a description of what it is and basically what it's going to entail?
You go first. I just did it for now.
Sure. It's a very unique nighttime spectacular, which really is our largest spectacular in Disney's California Adventure, and we're really excited to bring that lagoon to life. So I'd say it's a pretty unique show using a technology that in a combination of ways that really will take your imagination to extraordinary places. So we're excited.
You know, it's all about water. And when we started the little journey, it was like when we started doing fireworks shows differently, it's like, oh, what can we do with pyrotechnics and how can we use them as storytellers? That's what we did with water. We started to look at water and we started to play with it, going, yeah, everyone does this and everyone does that, but how can it be a character? How can it kind of grow out of this kind of, you know, beautiful droplet of water, and you start adding color and texture and light to it, and with Disney music and imagery, how can you just blend it in a whole different way and make kind of this world of color that just kind of explodes in front of your eyes. I mean, it's interesting that when you start to just look at water techniques, you're like, oh, why don't we try this? And you start to learn new things and new techniques, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, one of the coolest things we're doing in the show is we have 2 color fountains, and people will go, wow, how do they do that? And we just played around and said, oh, it's going to be fun. I think it's so big. The show is monstrous. It's bigger than a football field. It is a canvas of water that magically comes up and just keeps transforming and changing and taking you places, you know, either from the symphonic score or from the tapestry of water. I think it's going to be a great wow. I really do. I think that it's because of its scale. The scale of it, people have no idea how big it really is.
And it's very close to you, too. I think, you know, you're as close to the water as a third row here. Yeah, so it's right there.
You're about 12 feet away. If you're in the front row, you're about 12 feet away from a 30-foot fountain, which is very cool.
For sure. Michael Ragland, KSL Radio. We've kind of heard that the World of Color is going to be about basically making the Bellagio show look like a lawn sprinkler show compared to what you guys are doing with this as far as the scope and size.
That's not an official statement.
No, I've never made that statement. No, I think they're two different worlds. Honestly, I think the Vegas show is beautiful. I really do. I think it's revolutionary and beautiful, and we just went a whole different route and looked at the colorization of it. I mean, no one's ever done a color fountain this big and as sophisticated as this is. It's one of those things that I always say only Disney's crazy enough to try this. The amount of information universes in this show is staggering. I mean, it's huge. And just to get all those networks, just to get the giant football field out of the water is a feat of engineering. I think from the engineering to just what we're going to ask this thing to do is going to be beautiful, and all the technical people will just go, wow, I think, when they see what it really is.
And we're really going to explore. I mean, we've done everything to date with, you know, CGI and video and sort of in our mind, in Steven's mind, how he wants it to work. Now, when we actually fill the lagoon and start really putting the show together, we're going to learn so much about what this can do, because now it's real. So I think a lot of what you saw right now with Steven's presentation will come to life, and some of it we'll throw out because it isn't the right thing, it doesn't feel right, and other things will be explored. So we're very excited.
But I think that, you know, to wrap around into your original question, I think the biggest difference is story. I think that's going to be the #1 definer of the show, is that the worlds that will take you to, that Disney has. I mean, that's one thing that Disney has that nobody else has, is we have fantastic, you know, decades of animation that we can now strip away and do new things with, and you know, taking you into these color places. I think it's just going to be very unique. I think you're going to look at it very differently.
Yes.
Sarah, Tim Hughes, Meadows Plaza 2002.
Hey! Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. Tell us about the music, the soundtrack.
Music. Mark Hammond out of Tennessee is actually doing the score. He's a composer. along with his partner Dave Hamilton, who's doing all the orchestrations. We're using a lot of some original music. We're using a lot of Disney, as Stephen just mentioned, and a huge canon of Disney music. We're recording this in London. It's going to be incredible. It's over 100-piece orchestra. It has everything. It has things that has a very simple things, and it has a very grand feel. So I think you're going to get a lot of variety in this music. It's gorgeous.
It's built as a movie soundtrack. There's parts of the show that have no soundtrack. Just a little teaser for you. There's just things that happen throughout it. It's built like a movie. The whole thing is built like a movie. We've worked very closely with John Lasseter on this. He's been a great partner on this creatively. It really pushes you a lot, which I love, because it's just kind of like, hey, he's like a kid in a sandbox, and it's really fun to kind of get into those worlds and explore them in a lot of different ways. And the music was the same way. If you go through all the revs, I have a music background, and I talk music with composers. And you all have to go to the next thing, because I'm going to the composer session after this. It's going to be fantastic. Back to your question. But I think what I think is going to be wonderful about the soundtrack is that it is, as Sayre said, it is massive at times. I mean, it is the biggest finale of every Disney movie you've ever heard, but at times it's just very simple guitar and just air, and you're going to see things kind of come out of it.
So did the music come first and the water choreography came after, or? Both.
It all kind of works. My brain works on many weird levels, so we started with a bunch of storyboards, and the storyboards kind of built the mission, and then you'll sit down with Mark and Dave and go, hey, how about this? And then they run off, and they'll start to compose something, and they'll inspire you. They'll go, hey, we have this crazy idea, and something will come out of nowhere, and then it'll totally trigger a new thought. So that collaboration, I think, is really important, because it just keeps growing and enhancing. And the same with our water programmers. Jason Badger's doing a lot of our water programming for us, and he'll just take music, and I'll say, hey, play around with this, and he'll just come up with some amazing looks. And you just kind of go, wow, that's really, really fun. It's a partnership deal with everybody. Everyone's so invested in the show.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that we can see some fountains going off during the daytime?
Yes. Most likely starting in summer, probably not right with the show, but the plan is always to activate that lagoon during the day. So we will do, some short fountain shows on the hour and a half hour when the park is open, because really we've created this incredible park atmosphere and a whole new viewing area that you see being built, and we want to bring to life that water. So yes, absolutely we will.
And eventually the hope is to make it interactive. That's all we'll say on that.
Yeah.
Here on the side.
Hi, JoeyMasimple.com. With all this infrastructure going in for the World of Color, is there thoughts for other programs, maybe a Luminary 2.0, Christmas shows? Are we working on the show for other things?
Yes. We never stop inventing. Yes. Down the road.
Yeah, even World of Color itself will change. I forgot the whole end of the show, didn't I? I was so tired. There's a whole end tag to the show. Part of it's been on the internet already, but basically at the end of the show, when the end of the show is done, the fountain will actually come out and do bows. We're going to make it so they actually feel like little people, and they're going to come out and do bows, and the little orange fountain's going to come out and do a bow. And then after that, we're going to do a whole series of encores. And the encores are going to change all the time. So if a new movie comes out, we may actually put the new movie into World of Color if it fits. World of Color will always be changing. We're not going to keep it as a static show. I'm a firm believer in that. I think that it should always evolve. When Rapunzel comes out, there's some beautiful music in Rapunzel. If we weave it in the right way, it'll magically end up in World of Color. It might start as its own encore in the beginning. And we'll see. John's very committed. Pixar is going to do little interstitials with features, also doing little interstitials and things. So it's going to be fun.
Constantly changing. Great.
And yes, I want to do Lumen 2.0.
Sorry.
Now that I have fire out there.